"Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." John 21, verse 15. With the long nights it took to bring in a decent haul and the violent storms that could just break loose, being a fisherman on the Sea of Galilee was a rough job. In fact, rough is how you might describe Simon before he was forever changed by Jesus. Simon, the fisherman turned disciple, was impetuous, impulsive, and overzealous. And yet, despite Simon's turbulent personality, Jesus gave him the nickname Peter, or Rock. In every list of disciples in the New Testament, Peter is mentioned first. He was part of Jesus' inner circle, and it seems he had a special relationship with the Lord. Simon could certainly be rough, but that did not stop Jesus from using his friend for leadership in the kingdom. Simon was naturally inconsiderate, fickle, and unreliable. He tended to make big promises that he could not keep. He was one of those people who wholeheartedly start something, but then walk away from it before it was finished. Jesus changed Simon's name, it seems, because he wanted the nickname to be a lasting reminder to him about who he should be. Peter was exactly like most Christians, both carnal and spiritual. Sometimes he gave in to the habits of the flesh, other times he functioned in the Spirit. Sometimes he was sinful, but other times he acted as a righteous man should act. This fickle man, sometimes Simon, sometimes Peter, was the leader of the 12. Jesus chose Simon Peter not because he did everything right, but because he knew his great potential. Even though he needed training and life experience, Peter had the raw materials that make an excellent leader. First, he was very studious. It was usually Peter who asked the Lord to explain his difficult statements. It was Peter who asked how often to forgive. It was Peter who asked about the withered fig tree. He always wanted to know more, to understand better. Second, Simon Peter was willing to take the initiative. When Jesus asked his disciples, "But who do you say that I am?" it was Peter who boldly and correctly replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." However, this willingness to take initiative sometimes ended badly. As in the Garden of Gethsemane, when Peter, staring at hundreds of armed soldiers, swung his sword at one of the high priest's servants and cut off his ear. Finally, Peter was someone who always wanted to be personally involved. It was he who asked Jesus if he could get out of the boat and walk on the water with him. It was also Peter who followed Jesus after he was arrested. And in the courtyard of the high priest's house, Peter was so close that Jesus could turn around and look him in the eye. Of course, the reason Jesus turned to look at Simon Peter was that he had just denied knowing the Lord 3 times. Although the fisherman had done a terrible thing, Jesus was not finished with him. He still intended to make him the rock he knew Peter could be. He knew Peter would deny him. He had predicted it and had even given Satan permission to sift his friend. But Jesus said to Simon Peter, "I have prayed for you, that your faith may not fail, and when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren." What was this all about? People with natural leadership abilities often tend to have little compassion, be poor comforters, and be impatient with others. They don't dwell long on tending to the wounded while pursuing their goals. Simon Peter needed to learn compassion through his own trial so that he could strengthen his brothers and sisters in their trials afterwards. Jesus took the rough fisherman Simon Peter, full of curiosity, initiative, and the need to be personally involved, and cultivated in him a spirit of submission, restraint, humility, and love, all so that he could live up to his nickname, Peter the Rock. Thankfully, Jesus does not leave us alone to smooth our rough edges. He calls us to be changed in him, into the people he expects us to be.